Hello, commentary fans. This is Mike here, and I am back for the next commentary, which, believe me, has been a long time in the making. Today, we're going to venture out and expand our horizons a little tiny bit. We're doing Batman 1989 today, and it's a commentary I've been wanting to do for a little bit, particularly after seeing all the fun stuff with the 25th anniversary of the film, and it's also the 75th anniversary of the Batman character, so it's an appropriate enough commentary to do. Let's not waste any time. I don't want to waste time. We're going to get into it. I am paused on the Warner Brothers logo, and we're about to start with the Danny Elfman theme. And we're beginning with that classic Danny Elfman theme. Warner Brothers presents Jack Nicholson, who gets top billing over Michael Keaton. We'll probably see why later on. But this is a fun enough movie. I really like it a lot as a kind of piece of nostalgia. But we'll dissect it a little bit, because I definitely think that it's a movie that has aged quite a bit, and we'll definitely see that it's definitely it's very much a Tim Burton film for all the good that such a title can give you, and all the negative aspects as well. We'll definitely see that. I think it's good to give a little bit of background information about my experience with the film. I think everyone who grew up around the time I did, that this was one of their favorite movies at one time or another, especially during your childhood. And I'm no exception. I really loved this movie. We're watching the Blu-ray to it, and it's kind of feels odd, to tell you the truth, because I watched this movie so much on VHS, to the point where you could definitely see that it was a well-loved film. I mean, it's odd seeing this on Blu-ray without the commercial for the Warner Brothers catalog, you know. I don't have my Warner Brothers bowl cap on, or seeing Alfred send Batman to the store for some Diet Coke. Oh man, it's such a part of my generation, and seeing the 25th anniversary, which was at the end of June, and that's when I initially wanted to do the commentary, but believe it or not, I left my Blu-ray copy at my old house when we moved, and I had to invest in a new one, which is simple enough because this movie's everywhere, but I had to get a new copy of it just for this commentary. But just like seeing like the Facebook feeds with all the pictures from the movie, and reading the articles about everyone's personal experiences with it, really brought me back, and I wanted to relook at the film. It's a movie I've watched quite a lot, and to be fair, that's just one aspect of my relationship with the film, kind of being enamored with it and in love with it, and there's definitely a lot of love in it. But, you know, just growing up and it's a movie that's aged, I think, a lot, and it's a movie that suffers from Tim Burton's involvement in it. Tim Burton is a pretty polarizing filmmaker, and he does some things exceptionally. Like, his movies are always very well imagined. He chooses brilliant conceptual artists and designers, but he has some flaws, as we've kind of, anyone on the internet that discusses any sort of film will know. He is rightfully criticized for the fact that his films make really simple choices with characters, and he goes into eccentricity for the point of it. And of course, with actors, I imagine he's a really fun director to work for, because you can really go all out with him, but I don't think he can control actors very much. You see Johnny Depp go way over the top in a lot of his films, and I think looking at Batman, we're definitely going to see that in a few performers in it. Right now, we're going to see the introduction of Michael Keaton. They're all talking about how Johnny Gobbs fell off the roof. And, you definitely see that it's an 80s film, because they're all talking about American Express car. Don't leave home without it. Oh, boy. But there's Michael Keaton's Batman flying down. And this is one of the scenes that really, really stands out with you. When you read about the film, you get the impression that a lot of the time I think people were worried that this would be a revamp of the Adam West Batman. And you see Batman here, Michael Keaton. I'm not going to kill you. I want you to do me a favor. Tell all your friends about me. Oh, it still gives you the chills. It still gives you the chills. And, I'd love to have been there seeing this scene in 1989. That would have been something. But, I think Burton was a pretty inspired choice at the time, given the circumstances and what people really thought about comic book films at the time. Burton obviously goes for these darker characters. Batman is a pretty natural fit for him. In all his films, he kind of chooses these losers who are ostracized and feel alone, and how they almost how they skate with joining society, and how that usually isn't all quite as cracked up to be. And that's Batman to a T. So I think Warner Brothers made the right choice at the time. And of course, at the time this was released, Beetlejuice had just came out. And it's a gorgeous looking film, Beetlejuice. I really like it a lot. And, there's no fault at all for comic books for looking and feeling like a comic book. Here we are being introduced to Jack Napier, who is played by Jack Nicholson, and he's definitely the force of this movie that keeps it memorable, for sure. Nicholson, I think, was an inspired choice, obviously. He's a brilliant actor who's outstanding in every movie that he's in. Even in a bad movie, Nicholson's at least really, really interesting. And I think we're going to see that This is obviously one of his most memorable performances because this is Nicholson with all his eccentricities, like on super steroids. But he's pretty good in the movie, Nicholson. Obviously, we'll go into his character a little bit, but I think Batman is really his movie. Obviously, here we have William Hootkins as Lieutenant A. Card, the corrupt cop, and what you'll notice about him is that what you'll notice about him, I think, is those costumes. Uh, Burton uh, doesn't go for subtlety in anything. Like, if he goes for an arc or a theme, he like hits it on the head with a hammer. And I don't even think movies with the press agents like here we just introduced to Robert Wool as Alexander Knox, the comic relief of the film. I don't even think uh, like the movies that Burton is inspired by are like kind of like the film noir that Burton is inspired by. They were quite this blatant. Like you look at Nicholson and the outfit he is wearing here, like it screams out gangster. And like as I was saying earlier, um, there's no shame in being a comic book, and that's part of the fun of this movie, I think. Um, a lot of people view this movie in the wake of the comic book craze today, and especially Nolan's Batman films, which I don't want to go too much into them. I mean, I think it's going to be inevitable. I'll probably discuss them a little bit, and I'd eventually like to. Oh, that's beautiful here. Anton First, who designed the look of the picture, and that is one thing that Batman has. Um, these brilliant, brilliant sets, and the matte paintings in the back. Like we were just introduced to Gotham City Hall, and it really gives a distinct look to this area. You see like the soot in the background, and those giant statues. I mean, this movie looks gorgeous. It's really, really well designed. Here we have the little bat, Bob Kane, uh, playing drew the cartoon of the Batman. It's really kind of cute. Here we're about to be introduced to Kim Basinger as Vicki Vale. Look at those glasses on her. I mean, that's the kind of thing you'd expect from a Burton movie. Really, really, really. Cordell Maltese, which is a DC reference, I believe was in a Superman or Justice League comic. But it's neat making a little cameo here. Alexander Knox hasn't been in any Batman comic. He's a unique creation for this film, and I think what you look at the character, it's really like one of the more blatant examples of a studio, I think, kind of putting their interference or like their own stamp of what the people want in a movie. It's probably I don't know, what would you say, demographic studies, just like the formulas. And I think Alexander Knox is a definitely a comic relief for the sake of having one. But I do like Robert Wool in the role. He's pretty, like, he's got a joyful optimism about the character, and I like him in the film, especially considering how dark Burton's Bruce Wayne and Batman are, and he's really given some kind of thankless dialogue, and his character doesn't really have all that much of an arc other than to uh, find Batman, and then once Batman sort of makes his appearance, he goes away a little bit. But I like him in the movie. I think he does a good job uh, with the material that he's given, even though it's a little weak and it's a little contrived. But you want someone who's sincere, and I think he is for the most part. Here we have Jack Palance as Carl Grissom, the mafia don of Gotham City, telling Jack Napier that he's his number one guy. I don't forget, you lucky dick. Oh man, you look at him and he's dead meat. Makes the scene where he gets his all the more satisfying. One thing I don't think this movie does all that well is kind of show Gotham as a city with character, and kind of going back to the discussion earlier of what it takes to do a really good Batman adaptation. I think what we'll find is that you need, first and foremost, a really, really strong Bruce Wayne. But I think even more so, you need a really strong Gotham. And one of the things that I think you really need to show in sort of an origin story like this sort of is to show like the corruption of the city. And since Burton, that's not really a strong point. And I think that's one of the things I really like about Batman Begins is the fact that for the first act of the movie in dealing with Gotham, it makes the city a character. And it's just one of the different approaches. Just comparing the different approaches, because this is obviously a studio film shot on sound stages for all spectacle, and for that, it's really good. But at the expense, I think, it kind of suffers as an adaptation of the source material. I mean, visually, I think it works well enough as a adaptation of the source material, but not on a story level, and not on a psychological level. Here we have Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon. That's one of the other problems I think about this version of Batman is that Commissioner Gordon isn't in this film hardly at all, and he doesn't interact with Batman, and so I think the film suffers a little bit just because it doesn't go into the film suffers as an adaptation of Batman just because it doesn't really follow Batman as a character. Because I think if you don't have a really rooted Gotham and to ground him with its inhabitants, then then he loses his motivation, I think. And in this case, you don't really see what he's trying to protect. And so the movie steers away from Batman, I think. And that is very unfortunate because obviously you go into this wanting Batman. And so I almost, just looking at the film now, I think Batman himself is the least interesting character in it because he's not really given a lot of grounding in his motivations and what drives him. What we see is spectacle, Burton trying to use spectacle to take the place of things. Here we have Michael Keaton in the picture, enter the picture as Bruce Wayne. And he was a very unpopular choice for the character. Michael Keaton hadn't done anything. He had done some drama. I think Clean and Sober was before this, but he hadn't done anything quite like this at a time. And so when he was announced, it was extremely unpopular. People thought that since we had Tim Burton recasting Michael Keaton, that we'd have Adam West version of the character, which we'll go into it a little bit because I think that's an interesting sort of discussion here. Give Knox a grant. We'll go into that because I think what I was saying earlier is that it's a mix between finding the comic book and the character. And say what you will about Adam West's Batman, it's at least fun. And, I don't like comic book films that take themselves way too seriously without having fun. I mean, there's a difference between taking your material seriously and being pretentious about it. And there's a great many comic book films that aren't able to find that balance between character and fun. And, on one end of the spectrum, you could work. I think you could work on the end of the spectrum where you go in for the spectacle and fun, but you can't really work if you go too much into the just, trying to be way too serious with the character. And Batman's an interesting film because I think it shows how important it is to juggle these things, especially because we're dealing with Batman, and I don't make any apologies for it, but Batman is my most favorite comic book character. And so I'm a little harder on Batman film adaptations. Uh, like, that's not to say that I look at a Batman film and, have unrealistic expectation of what is in it, what should be in it, because that's not what I think at all. I think what's unfair about comic book films is that you have fans that I think are a little unrealistic about things. They expect complete 100% faithfulness to the source material, and while you do want some of that, I think what's more important is to be faithful to the spirit of the character. And this film has some moments where it is, but it has some moments where it's glaring in its disregard for what makes Batman Batman. I think the moments that really work in the film are obviously the aesthetics, and I think Keaton's performance is pretty good, but I think the script sometimes leaves some things lacking there. Here we have Pangle. Oh my god. Incredible sequences here in the Access chemical plant. And it's like an art director's, like one of the art director's pinnacles achievements. Batman won an Academy Award for that. And it's so completely worth it. It looks gorgeous, this movie, the sets. I mean, it looks like a comic book come to life. And so, you can't really complain about that, but one of the things I think is interesting about Nicholson's character in the film in the beginning is that he is he's a mobster, which, I mean, I don't know, like a lot of people I imagine would be upset because I think Killing Joke came out around this time, and some of this is from Killing Joke, the story about the chemical plant and kind of the mob using it as a front. But I like the fact here that Nicholson's like a sleazy gangster, because I think it works with the Joker character, and that you get him using uh, um, the crime syndicate as his like personal toy, and that's a fun part of the character. I kind of you don't really look at Nicholson's performance all that much before he transforms into the Joker, but I kind of like it because it's like almost like his character in The Departed a little bit. He's kind of like a no nonsense, kind of like grim mobster, and it's a fun contrast to what he becomes later on. Here we have one really glaring thing about Keaton's Batman costume is that it's not really a practical suit to act in. You see, he can't move the upper part of his body at all. He has to like twist and turn, and so it sort of creates awkward, um, awkward movement, and it really makes the fight scenes highly impractical. That's a great image of Nicholson's scarred hand coming out of the thing and coming out of the waist with his uh, cards coming out. I think one thing people really uh, remember about this movie is how heavily marketed it was. This was kind of like the first modern summer movie. I would even say that this was the template of all the summer movies to come. And, like, just the fact that it's still really, really remembered now, I think, is a testament to it. The thing I think everybody remembers about Batman is, oh, I think, like, is the poster. It's one of the defining images, like, and it's brilliant marketing strategy. You could just see that logo, and Batman's had a lot of visual cues, obviously, but that one, you see that symbol, and you just think uh, Batman, and I think the hiring of Jack Nicholson as the Joker was inspired as well because people look at comic book film and like you see the fact that that they've killed careers like George Reeves. I think must have been on heavy on everyone's mind how that original Superman series kind of tormented the poor guy and typecast him and ruined his chances of getting that better roles. But adding a name like Jack Nicholson to the picture, who, like, by that time must have been the most respected actor working in Hollywood, I really think it elevated the movie, and it got people really, really excited to see it. And, you know, later on, you see his name in the credits before Keaton, and you know, you can question kind of how fair that is, but a star carries a movie, and like Brando in the original Superman film, it gets people excited, and it lends the movie, I think, a little bit more respect and class. Vicki and Bruce are on their little date together, and the dining room is definitely not Bruce's. That's something I think is pretty critical to dissecting the film. Is it's Bruce Wayne. Here we have the backdoor surgery house, and this is just horrific. Let's see how we did. Like, this is a scene that only Burton could stage. Imagine, like, if this was made just 10 years later, it would be Johnny Depp in this role, and he would have probably have gone farther than Nicholson did. I love the music cue there. How it sort of goes into like a sadder kind of motif there. It really builds up his first appearance. I remember the first time I saw this movie, I was really probably a little too young to see it. And like this scene, like terrified the hell out of me. You know, that's one thing you sort of hope for. And that's one thing you get from Nicholson is he really knows how to play his nutsos. And so, you know, it's the build up to the character. I love Michael Keaton's glasses there. He looks funny with them. Kind of showing that Bruce Wayne's sophisticated. And that's kind of the section of Bruce is that there's a lot of choices like that, aesthetic choices, which I think try to substitute for the fact that there's not really a lot done with Bruce's character in the actual script. And so I think Michael Keaton does a fairly good job at kind of making up for those shortcomings with some of the nuances. And some of the nuances we'll see later on in the film. I think you see that a woman, it's enough to make me must be insane. This is like the farthest I got into the film as a kid. Or no, as a real little kid. I saw this movie the first time when I was like 2 years old. What kind of parenting was that? But I remember, like, I was like bawling as soon as you saw his face. So I got a long history with this movie. Maybe we could cut it. Drake. I love some of the dialogue the Joker gets, and like it's over the top, but it's like quintessential Nicholson dialogue. I've been dead once already. You should think of it as therapy. I mean, you look at Nicholson there, and he's having the time of his life. I'm really kind of disappointed that Nicholson only did 2 films with Burton, because he's like the perfect actor to work with Burton. Because you notice in Burton loves, like, I don't know if it's his fault or if it's intentional, but like you see actors in Burton film just go way out there to the point where it's they're always over the top, especially Johnny Depp. You look at what Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and his Alice in Wonderland films, and he is like chewing the scenery, but it's like such a way that it doesn't hurt the film. Like it, I don't want to say it adds to it because there's sometimes where like the films don't work, but like it's it definitely like it definitely is interesting because you see how far Burton goes with the aesthetics of his films, and you almost need actors to go over the top to match up with that. Otherwise, they seem really out of place. And so, like, that's one thing about Nicholson. Um, he was the guy for the job because I think if you had someone who was reserved like that, it would hurt the film, I think. Or not necessarily hurt it, but it just wouldn't be as fun. Here we have Michael Keaton. And they're talking about how he's got to go out of town for a few days as soon as they've slept with each other. um, I don't know. Like, I really dislike Burton's interpretation of Bruce Wayne and the script here because you see, you'll never believe what happened to me today. Already he's got a whole purple wardrobe. Okay, like Clockwork, I'm talking about how Bruce Wayne is doesn't have any motivation, and like Clockwork, you see why? Because in Burton's Batman films, he is far more interested in the villains than he is in Batman himself, and you could almost call this movie the Joker rather than you could Batman because uh, just so much emphasis is placed on the Joker character. Oh boy, this is like horrific. This old electric buzzer scene with Nicholson like really going all out there, and I think that's one of the strong points of the character is that he's really kind of funny at the same time. Tony, I got a little hot under the collar. You know, I don't even know because some of this stuff isn't really all that funny. Like, well, I mean, it's not really all that funny. But you see, Nicholson's going all out there, and just sometimes laughter is contagious, I guess. You don't really know here what starts the whole Joker's fascination with the Batman. Well, I guess you could almost say it's because of their encounter at um, the chemical plant, but it's like almost a footnote, really, because I don't think there was a huge amount of emphasis on Batman's part in that scene, and so you kind of forget, but there's not really a huge cause and effect in the film just because the characters in it don't have motivations. This Joker is actually really kind of similar in a lot of ways to the classic Heath Ledger Joker that we've all come to know and love from The Dark Knight, because he too has that sense of anarchy in a way. Like, he's not running organized crime syndicate. He's really just kind of going on a homicidal fun spree, just making himself laugh at the expense of the lives of people. Here's a scene where I think they tried to do some things with the Bruce Wayne character, but I don't know. Like, I think what the film could have used is more dialogue with Bruce Wayne going into what he wants in the world. I know the Nolan films kind of get some criticism in the fact that maybe they do a little too much of that. You know, have Alfred, Michael Caine's Alfred, go on and on about how the world works and how the morality in that world works. But on the other end, this movie doesn't go into that at all. Like, this Bruce Wayne here doesn't, you know, he doesn't have any moments where he actually expresses his feelings at all. He just kind of, there's these grim shots, and then you're supposed to, you know, think that the fact that he becomes Batman is enough to really explain away what the character is. And it's not really like, you want to get a little bit of the sense of the thought process. Remake family, you two must have been very close. I like this scene here where the Joker comes and murders the other mobsters. Like, he gets some like really, really far out, goofy dialogue that just goes like over the top in like ways that you don't even know what the hell they're talking about. I love the scene where um, he stabs this mobster here who looks like he's just out of a stereotype catalog. And he says, "Hello, Vinny. It's your Uncle Bingo. Time to pay the check." with his dead hand and signing his own blood. Chico bingo. Time to pay the check. Like, what the hell is that supposed to even mean? Here we have another look at that City Hall. I love those two statues in the background. I love those two statues in the background. You know, one thing about Batman is that it was such a huge deal that you sort of forget. I mean, you sort of forget how long it lasted. I remember at Six Flags, they still have it actually at the Six Flags near me. They have the Batman ride, and they sort of recreate that City Hall and the Axis chemicals. And they have those two figures standing outside the entrances of the ride. It looks like something out of, I don't know what you would call it, like a futuristic kind of like city. Um, like there's instances where it looks like faded New York, but then there's things that look like they're straight out of Metropolis, and I really like the theatricality of it. On one hand, here we have Michael Go as Alfred, and we haven't really discussed him yet, but I think he is one of the great strong points of the film, and just of the series in general. I think he's great in every one of the Batman movies he's in. Like, he's actually the best part of Batman and Robin, actually. Like, you know, that's interesting, because he's the only thing you really care about in that movie. You really want him to live. You don't care about Arnie trying to freeze the world. But I think what I really like about Michael Go's Alfred is that he's very sweet, father-like, and genuine. And I think that's what I really like about him, because in a lot of uh, interpretations of the character, and surely in uh, the Dark Knight, he really is. They go kind of into the fact that he's kind of like the collaborator in the Batman whole project, and surely that's an important part of the character. But I like the fact when uh, like the paternal aspect is um, is expressed. I'm sorry, I'm sort of watching this here. Stop the press. Who is that? Here we have Tracy Walter as Bob the Goon, which is kind of like a thankless role. He definitely has lives up to his title. You wonder, like, that he's went from an organized crime organization to him sitting around cutting out pictures and goofing around. nothing like happens in this scene to advance the plot at all, but you really like that scene there. I mean, it's sort of just there for Nicholson to chew the scenery, and he's so much fun in this movie. See, that's another example of Burton's uh, goofiness, or not goofiness, like his going all out with the characters. Here we go into one of the major subplots of the movie where the Joker poisons the cosmetic products to kill people, and it doesn't really do anything. Like, and you wonder why it's even in here. Like, what's the Joker's endgame? But I know I'm walking right into him. He just does things, but it's fun. You, like, you don't really care because Nicholson's just so good at the part and just having so much fun in the film. I think that's really one of the uh, that's really one of the reasons the film doesn't work so as well is because you need Batman to kind of counteract all this and Batman's perspective on the world. Love that Joker. Not an act. Oh, God. Again and again. Gosh. This is like, the haircut was so natural. Only your Undertaker knows for sure. Oh, man. Boy. So you see Keaton there, like his Bruce Wayne is so quiet and so reserved that you almost, uh, like, it leaves too much, like, too much to be inferred, I think, because you forget the fact that, I don't know, you just, like, too much to be inferred. Especially, like, how awkward his, relationship with, Vicki Vale is. Like, you don't really, see how she's into, him at all. Here we have the newscasters without their, makeup or their hairspray, and they look like, uh, garbage. She looks particularly bad. Big nightmare. Billy D. Williams here as Harvey Dent, and I didn't really go into him at all. He's like not really in the film very much at all, and you sort of don't see the weight of the character. Like I said earlier, Batman, we'll find out as he's not really confined to the law and order that we expect him to be at all. Um, One thing I really like about the Dark Knight, which I think a lot of people really like about it, is kind of discuss the fact they really go into the idea of what's a vigilante. And this Batman, I think we're going to find out, is nothing but a vigilante. Because by the end of the film, you really see him go all out. And I think it's a disappointing thing to see. Here we're having the Art Museum, which is clearly a giant soundstage. They go into the Prince number, which is one of the things I haven't really discussed about the film. It's very much a product of the 80s. Prince was a huge musician at the time, and so they asked him to record a few songs for the movie. And I think what we'll discover, or what you'll see, is that there's a lot of things that date this movie, and above anything else, it's this soundtrack. Joker is writing with a crayon on his little thing there. It's kind of cute. I like the colors of this movie. One thing that after this one, of some of the Burton movies, is that they weren't very colorful. Batman Returns is pretty much all, like, the palette in that movie is like purple and dark. But this one has some great moments. It looks like Joker's outfit there is really, really fun and loud. Here, the party time, I think, is what the song is called. I don't know. I never really was a huge fan of Prince. Kind of figured he was just kind of a Michael Jackson ripoff. I think you can listen to this song, you definitely see that. Party man. That's one thing you gotta admire about Nicholson. I mean, like, you really see how much fun he's having at this point. Oh, I like this part. Kind of like this one, Bob. Leave it. There's a picture of the meat on the slab. You can take that off now. Yeah. Nicholson has sort of childish sort of quality in there. He's like a mad kid who's just having so much fun. It's glue. I don't know if it's hot, but I like it. It's definitely a sort of a different take on the Joker. He still has that maniacal, angry edge, but like he has fun being what he is. World's first fully functioning homicidal artist. My face on the $1 bill. Do I look like I'm joking? Yeah, listen to how people dissect art. Like, you imagine that someone would want to be a homicidal artist, and they discuss it like that. I love how the Joker talks here, because he sounds like Professor Zayat. He wants to challenge her with Peace, Alicia, and they want to be on the new level of the avant-garde, a living piece of art. One thing I notice about this part in the film is what does he really want with Vicki Vale? That's one of the more interesting aspects of the character. I know a lot of people really love the story of Harley Quinn and kind of the dynamic he has with the Joker. And like if there's a sexual attraction between them, or if it's just kind of one of the Joker's really cruel jokes, if you will, that he just like finds it so funny to abuse a woman, and it's really a fascinating arc of the character. And I guess you sort of see traces of that here if you look hard enough, in that what he did to Alicia there and what he wants to do with Vicki Vale. Here we have the first look at the Batmobile, and for all the things that the Nolan films have an edge on, this one is not the Batmobile. The Batmobile has to look like an animal, sort of, brought to life. And I love the Batmobile in this. Like it's cartoony, but it's like beautiful at the same time. I've actually seen someone reconstruct that. It's not quite as like one of the reconstructed Batmobiles, like driving around. It's not quite as impressive as the one in the film, but it's cool beyond belief. I like the Batmobile and Batman Forever a lot too, because it does have that same feel. It looks like an entity, a character, and the one in Batman, or the one in The Dark Knight, was just kind of looked like a tank without any soul or character. I'm interested in seeing what the next interpretation of it will be. I imagine that it'll look similar to the one from The Dark Knight, just because how popular it was. For Keaton's, like, the lack of motivation they give Keaton, the lack of exploration, the character they give Keaton's Bruce Wayne, he really does a great job as Batman. I love the voice that they give him, because that's one thing you really need to perfect as Batman, because you don't want to you want to seem like it's a different character than Bruce Wayne, and you definitely see the anger in his Batman. Like, it sounds like Clint Eastwood, and I'm not saying that as like insult, but it is the right way to do it, because he is sort of like a dirty, hairy type character. Here's one thing. Here's one thing about the Batman film, is that the fighting sequences in this are terrible. Like, Burton, he doesn't know how to direct an action film. Like, this, here's a moment stolen almost directly from Raiders of the Lost Ark, with the guy swinging the swords, and I think all Batman does is punch him in the gut or something. I don't know. There's a little bit of it, but you notice how the people actually have to come to Batman to fight. He can't go seek them out, and usually all he does is like gives them one kick, and there's a few moments where the gangsters and the thugs just look like dumbfounded, like he like punches them on the side without even looking at them. And I want some action in these films. I want to believe that there's actually a fight, that Batman isn't just out of nowhere. Now the movie kind of takes in terms of the character of Vicki Vale, it takes a turn for the worse. Here's a beautiful, beautiful sequence in the film. Like, this is, like, some people say that this is one of the finest moments in any Batman film, because you just have Elfman's magnificent score, and you have Vicki Vale sort of stare at him, and he's completely oblivious to anything. There's a little bit of a wink and a nod, or like a wink to her, like that he acknowledges her, but there's nothing else. You just see how fast that Batmobile can go, and Elfman doesn't get enough credit, I think, as a composer, because he's different from Williams, and because he really has kind of gone through a slump where he's just kind of repeated everything that he's done in the past. But his Batman score does so much for this film. It was really brilliant at, creating character and forgiving the film an edge. Like, you have motifs in the great scores like Indiana Jones, The Raiders March, it's just as much part of the character as the fedora or anything, or the dialogue that Harrison Ford has. And Jaws, it gets the heart pounding. You have a response where it gives you the feeling and emotion of the film, and that is the same thing. Like, it's as good as any of the great iconic scores of anything that Williams did. And it's an interesting score, too, in the sense that it has that kind of grand operatic feel, but there's still some of that fun zaniness from it that you get from Beetlejuice, like how you kind of get the feeling that some of that's cartoony, but you get some of that too in this movie. Yeah, here we have the end of the whole story about the whole story about the I forget the hair products. People will say the same thing about you. That could have been a really interesting take on the character if they went into how the public perception of Batman. You sort of get the feeling that might have been a theme that they wanted to convey, but they just didn't go into it enough. Like, one moment later on in the film we're going to see is when the Joker sets up the grand finale. In the grand finale of the film, he challenges Batman to make an appearance. Yeah, Batman cracks the code. Yeah, you see Batman, or the Joker challenge Batman to make an appearance, like, who is the good guy, and the Joker kind of plays with the sensibilities of the character, kind of plays with the media perception of it, and I think that's interesting that they could have done something a little bit more with that. Maybe Batman, um, could have been more villainous, but then again, you don't know the whole story. I think there's a lot of ideas suggested in this film that they're suggested, like, the idea of Batman, the idea of Batman's sort of villainous side, like I was saying, or the idea of what the Joker, wants to do with his crime apparatus, or Bruce coming to grips with his past, and they don't quite go into it as much as they do. They sort of introduce it, and you think like that's an actual exploration of things, but it's not, and it leaves a lot to be desired. here we have Vicki Vale, and I think now is a good time to talk about my perception of the character. Hey, I need you to shut up. Jeez. This is another thing that I sort of want to go into different sides to their personality. But what I want to go into about Vicki Vale is she, maybe above anything else, is one of the problems I have with the film. Burton has always had a lot of trouble with female characters. You get the feeling watching a Burton film is that he's the kind of guy who, of course, had trouble talking to girls, loner around, like they're like aliens to him. And so they're like really hyper sexualized in probably what Burton thinks his interpretation of what he thinks a woman should look like and what makes a woman attractive. And Vicki Vale is, I think, his worst female character. I think that because it goes out of his comfort range, because Vicki Vale is supposed to be a strong, independent woman, but like the exact opposite happens because I think Burton, like, he didn't read comic books, and so he probably, just has the trappings of comic books, so he uses them to the extremes. And so he figures that he needs kind of like a Lois Lane that needs saving. And so all Vicki Vale does in this movie is scream for Batman to save her. And it's annoying and it's disappointing. I think the way to do a female character in these kind of films is that sure you should have the superhero saver, but I think you also need to have the superhero see something of him, like see what they're fighting for in their female love interest, and like there's a lot of things that they get strength from, and I think you should see that in there. Like they can't obviously the love interest can't be strong in the same way, but I think they have to show that they're brave, and any moment where the villain comes in can't be seen like this. Like the villain can't like completely overwhelm the love interest, like in this movie. Like, Vicki just screams all the time here. Here we have the introduction of the "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" He asks it of all his prey. And then we'll see later on that that has big implications on the character in this film, which I think obviously that some people feel is the great weakness of the picture. He went and blew a raspberry there. Oh man. Here's something I'll say about not just this Batman film, but I like to compare it to the others. Oh, she's stupid enough to open the Joker's present, even though it's nothing. One thing I'll say about all the Batman films is that everyone who plays the villain in them, everyone who plays the villain in them really goes all out over the top. And I know I was talking about sort of the comic nature of the character and the sort of, comparing it to the Adam West version. And I think if, like, say the TV station wanted to, a TV station in about 1989 said, let's remake the Adam West Batman. Like, I think the Joker probably would have been played pretty much exactly the same way as he is in this movie. Like, not just the humor, but just kind of how far it goes. Grieving for the loss of old friends or their sons. That's an interesting point of Alfred that I really like, and they do it really well in the last Nolan Batman film too. How far will Alfred act as an accomplice to Batman if there's a point where he recognizes how dangerous it is, and does he love Bruce enough to pull him out of it? It's a good line here, and it's a really great subplot in The Dark Knight Rises. One thing I am not is a killer, and he's just gone off creating his homicidal shampoo and cosmetic products. So Gotham City dumped $20 million in cash on the crowd. I love some of the scenes that they're cutting away there to, like, the groups listening in on the radio. It's so 80s, like. Batman. See that, like, they go off of that theme from earlier. Who's the real bad guy? Is the Batman as bad as Joker? And they don't do enough to propose that idea in terms of what Batman does. All he's really done is beat up some street thugs. And would have been more interesting, I think, if they had gone more into it. Because this movie is really just about everything at face value. Here we're going into the biggest deviation from the source material. We're about to find out that it wasn't just some random thug that killed Bruce's parents. It's actually Jack Napier himself who becomes the Joker. And a lot of people hate this change. And you could probably count me among them. I think what I really think is really smart about how it was originally done is that it shows that crime is universal. Like, it doesn't turn Batman's enemy into like a one guy. Here, like, if he at the end of this movie, it could have just ended because of the fact that it's a Joker, and then Batman, of course, gets rid of him at the very end of this movie, and it's over. There's catharsis in that. He's had his revenge. But having it done by a random guy, just was like driven by desperation, and is just a part of the violence bred by the city. It makes Batman's actual foe an idea that he can never really defeat without losing himself too far and into like becoming this sort of fascist protector. I think that's really interesting, and that's one of the things I think Nolan chose to do in The Dark Knight in particular, that if he went too far, Batman, he'd become just as bad as any of his villains. And of course we'll go into the fact that another huge deviation we're just gone in here is that Vicki Vale has been led into the Batcave, and I know that this one pisses off even the most hardcore fans of the film. And Sam Hamm wrote this film, and he's I've listened to interviews with him. He seems like a pretty smart guy, and that some of the choices that I think didn't work in this film might have been more from Burton and how he chose to emphasize the script, because around the time that this was going into production, it was around 1987 or so, there was a huge writer's strike, and so there were a lot of rewrites that had to be done that Sam Hamm couldn't participate in because of the union rules. And so I think the two choices that were really hurt the Batman character, having Vicki Vale into the Batcave and sort of turning the Joker into the huge force that conveniently is Batman and Bruce's enemy were Burton's choices, because I think they were easier to understand. And so, um, this is an incredible scene. It's like the only, I think, scene that's impressive as like a huge action spectacle, because it doesn't have Batman himself here. It just, is just the car. But jeez, it's a gorgeous looking scene. But you forget the fact that Batman's like probably killing hundreds of people here, and it's hard to really root for this Batman in the end, because he becomes judge, jury, and executioner. And wow, you know, look at that face on Keaton. Like, you can tell there's nothing he wants more than to go after the Joker and kill him. And I don't like that in Batman. You know, if you were to ask me what I really loved about the Batman character, I'd probably say the fact that he doesn't have any powers other than his super intelligence and his will. And I love the fact that he doesn't kill. Because, let's face it, if he did, he'd really just become a fascist. And I like the fact that, the implications of Batman are pretty grave, because he's really close to becoming everything you'd hate in a hero, or everything I would hate. Like, I mean, obviously, if you listen to my Avengers commentary, I really think, like, one of the things that really is troubling about superhero pictures and the superhero mythos is when you have the characters that, appoint themselves judge, jury, and executioner, and can have that iron will, and they aren't, bound to any law and order. And I think I forget if it's this film. I think it might be Batman Returns, where they say the law doesn't either apply to the Penguin or the Joker, and then Batman says, "No, it's wrong. It applies to all of us," and it doesn't in this world, because you see, Batman, like, he's murdering all these thugs here, and so he's really tough to view as all-out hero. And I think they forget the roots of the character. You forget the roots of the character, and I think one of the things that what you would look at that they forgot is you don't have Jim Gordon or Harvey Dent as Batman's partner in this. I think that's one of the important aspects of the character, is that Batman has and Bruce Wayne have such great respect for the law and order, and that Batman is there because these supervillains have perverted everything to the point that they're so strong that Gotham needs someone like a Batman to stand up for them. And here's another thing about this. They don't, in this film, like, Batman and the Joker, their relationship is very, like, you can tell that both of them are intent on killing the other. And in the end of the Dark Knight, the Joker comes to the realization that his best friend is the Joker, or his best friend is Batman. And I love that aspect of the character, and that they feed off each other so well. Because you have Batman, who's so strict by law and order, and you have the Joker, who's so intent on just, having fun by bending the rules or by bending the rules to the point where people die, that they're just the perfect counterpoints to one another. And the other thing is that Batman is such a grim character, and the Joker is obviously based off a clown, and so he's sort of has the friendly aesthetics. It's fun seeing them juxtaposed on one another. You always wondered if he was gonna die at this point in the film, Alexander Knox. I think maybe in the original script he was. I don't remember all that well. It would have been depressing if he did, and I could definitely see it being the case that in a test screening they wanted him to live. Here's another reason why I love this movie. Like, this is what the movie does really, really well, is these special effects sequences. I love these scale models and the scale model of the Batwing, and just how they do the special effects here. There's not any CG. It's all practical. Well, obviously it's made before CG, and you just it's all movie magic. And this is definitely a movie about movie magic, or it really celebrates everything. It's all on sound stages. It's all very theatrical. It's loud, and it's fun. Here's poor Bob. Bob Gunn, he shoots him. Bob Gunn. His plans failed. He's they're all shooting. Get out of here, get out of here. This is totally for show. Him flying on top of the moon. See, this, we're about to see a scene that kind of perfectly encapsulates what I was saying earlier about how this Joker and this Batman are all about mutual hatred, wanting to kill the other. And you have Nicholson going pointing at him. They do this in The Dark Knight, a very similar scene where the Batman is on his motorcycle and he's screaming, "Come at me!" And like, of course, Batman is above, brutally murdering someone. This Batman, he's firing everything at him, and it's like a miracle that it's missing him. The props in this movie are beautiful too. I love that huge gun and some of the Joker's, all their toys, and like he's got the gas mask and the the walkie-talkie we'll see later on. Sam Hamm wrote, you can see there are actually models and scale, and there's only moments where it's actually noticeable. You see a little bit more of it when it's on Blu-ray, but it's part of the fun. Sam Hamm wrote a script for Batman Returns that wasn't used, and one of the things about these Batman films is that the sequels didn't necessarily follow the other ones. Like, they were sort of in a similar universe, but they were definitely their own sort of standalone films. And in the sequel, I remember the script. It's the only unproduced script I ever read. But they make a big deal about this ending and how everyone sort of wanted a piece of Batman merchandise at Christmas. And they were selling his broken plane pieces. And I think I think it was sort of a clever take on sort of the Batmania that followed this film when it initially came out. This set is like out of a horror film, and the music feels like Phantom of the Opera at this time too. I remember reading that they didn't really know how they were going to end the film. And so in one of the articles actually about the 25th anniversary of Batman, it's actually, you should all look them up because they're all kind of cool. But I remember like they didn't know how they were going to end this film. Like they had built the set and the stairs, and Nicholson didn't know what was going to happen when they got to the top of the stairs. And that's really kind of interesting, I think. Like, because so much of the film is about the build-up. Obviously, this Batman is like furious at the point. Like, and that's something that Keaton does really pretty well, is act in that costume. He does relay a lot of emotions, even though I think that costume actually, it looks cool, but it really, I think, presents some difficulties for the actors. You have Commissioner Gordon finally have something to do at this film, but the Joker like throws, or I think shoots down the bell where they can't get in and do anything about it. Right now we're gonna see in the action sequences, once Batman gets up there when he fights the goons, that he just sort of simply kills them. And one thing I think could have been interesting, although you couldn't do a sequel to it, the whole Batman never kills thing, which I think is a wise character choice. But if they wanted to do like a standalone Batman comic where he were to fight his father's killer, I think would have been interesting sort of to see what happened afterwards, if he really went berserk and sort of did become everything he hated. Because in essence, he's being corrupted here by killing the Joker, I think. And I think, like, what's more is there really? Because this movie's about petty revenge, and I think it's because it's an easier character choice for Burton. He's very black and white about things, but Batman, while Batman has the codes, he isn't black and white. And so, once you get here's the moment I was actually, I think, thinking about alluding to earlier with the fighting. Raiders of the Lost Ark reference there. Yeah, Vicki is actually dancing with the Joker because she doesn't know what to do, and they don't really have anything interesting for her to do at all. Here we have two moments where Batman doesn't even have to fight anybody, they just fall through. I think it's because they can't use a fight choreographer here. Yeah. These are like gorgeous, gorgeous sets. It looks, like I said, out of a horror film, but it's also really lit really well. It's really highlights the production value of this film. And I know Vicki screaming there. I know this movie was a huge gamble, I think, for Warner Brothers because they were sort of suffering some financial problems at the time, and I think it really paid off for them to go all into this. And even though it feels big, I think the spectacle doesn't necessarily have a form of reality, but it's got some weight to it in terms of this ending, I think. I'm sorry, I kind of was venturing off there. I'm just enjoying this, but I was going to say this spectacle of the film, I think, really goes all out here because of the fact that the movie becomes a revenge film, and then for all of Burton and his big choices, this is when it actually sort of gets personal. Of course, if anyone else calls you beast, I'll rip their lungs out. Here we have Vicki sorta stand up for herself a little bit and help Batman, but it's not. Uh, it's troublesome in the sense that it's only as a woman that she's a woman, so the only way she can affect anything is sort of by playing around as girlfriend to the Joker, sort of giving into his sexual advances. That look on Nicholson's face is terrific. I'm going to kill you. Yeah, see here it gets personal, and they're talking about how they created the other. Like how it's never easy to get over it, but then they tried by creating these views of themselves, and it's kind of in terms of it, it's not a good adaptation of Batman at all, but it is sort of an interesting revenge movie. I like revenge stories. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I like revenge stories, and so it does have an interesting art idea behind it. I mean, like the movie doesn't go into the intricacies of plot or character, and so you can't. It just becomes kind of a revenge story at face value. But I like this moment here where the Joker or Batman just goes all out on the Joker, and so they're saying, "You made me." I like this music from Elfman here too. Like in the church, you sort of see the how stupid is she? Had grab a hand. Who, who couldn't see that? Yeah, here we have the Joker is about to clock out of the film, and how much he goes into it. You almost get the feeling that you wish that you almost get the feeling it's just sort of underwhelming how they actually kill off the Joker. Um, like you sort of, I don't know, like you sort of wish that he had just thrown him off the building. And here it's sort of inadvertent how this happens. He shoots the thing with his leg and the gargoyle. You sort of like it would have to be a hard R, and it would have to make this Batman like really dark, and he couldn't be considered a hero because if he killed Joker in the way I think the film sort of hints that he wants to, the movie I think it would have presented some interesting possibilities, but I just think it would have alienated too many people because obviously you don't want Batman to have any sort of bloodlust, and he does in this movie for sure. I mean, just like everything else, it's not um, everything else about like character's motivations. It's not there, but just just because it's not something that you can show blatantly to everybody. Lucky for that gadget, Vicky had one last scream in her. And of course they're gonna kiss as they're flying off. I love this ending with the Joker here. Like, it's so in character for what Nicholson did there, and it's so, like, such a horrific image. But you could definitely see Nicholson's character wanting to laugh so bad that he puts that thing in there. And you wonder what's in that bag. I mean, it's probably nothing, but just that it's there, you kind of want to see it. Here we see the police finally do their job, and Harvey Dent take his job as district attorney. Like, I don't know. Eventually, they do get to Harvey Dent in Batman Forever, but a lot of people hate that movie. I actually think it's the best of the Burton Schumacher films, believe it or not, and I wouldn't be surprised if it got a commentary here. Hint, hint. But I would have liked to have seen what Billy D. Williams did with the character, obviously, because I think it would have been interesting. But I don't think Burton would have done a very good job with it, because you'd kind of have to go into kind of the law and order aspect and sort of what a district attorney would be and how Batman would have to go within the confines of law, at least for the beginning of the Harvey Dent story. And I don't think that would interest Burton very much at all. Rumor has it that the Max Schreck character, or I think he was in one of the first drafts of it, Max Schreck character, Batman Returns, was actually Harvey Dent. And that might have been cool, but we'll see. How is she still with him? I mean, this is the last bit of stuff I'll show with the film, but how is she still with him? Because she sees what a psychopath he is. And why is he still Batman? But whatever. Here we have the last triumphant bit of the Danny Elfman theme as Batman stares at the signal. And I know I've discussed kind of how this is such a Tim Burton movie, and it is, but that's Tim Burton at his best there, because Tim Burton really, he makes beautiful, beautiful looking movies, and obviously if you have the right actor, they can have a lot of fun in them. But when you look at sort of the characters, you really want a little bit more exploration into them. You know, you see that characters like being big, and obviously Burton's characters are the biggest, isn't enough. You want a little more nuanced look. And fortunately for Batman fans, Chris Nolan came along, and so we did get a great Batman movie. And while this isn't a great Batman movie, I think this is a really nice piece of pulp entertainment. My opinion of it is definitely downgraded, but I had fun looking at it today, and I can see why it's stayed with me and with a lot of people, and why an entire generation grew up with it. I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary, and I'll see you next time. And until then, have a nice evening and enjoy the movie. I'm gonna take my Warner Brothers ball cap off until next time. Have a good one.